My name's Julie, and I've survived 5 different layoffs, 2 CEOs, and 1 literal office fire in my 12 years in corporate. But none of that prepared me for what happened the day my manager Chad tried to steal my work and got destroyed by an intern. And not just any intern, but I didn't know that yet. The moment of betrayal wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It happened with the calm efficiency of a seasoned thief. I was sitting in the boardroom. Not at the table, of course, behind it where support staff goes. Chad stood up front, sleeves rolled like he just did a push-up on a spreadsheet, and presented my deck, the one I spent all weekend building, with the confidence of a man reading his own diary. Our vision, he said, isn't just about moving the needle, we're replacing the whole damn compass. I felt my stomach tighten. He read my joke. Slide 3 138M. I typed that line while chewing a stale protein bar and muttering API documentation under my breath. I glanced across the room. David, the new intern, sat quietly in the corner. Nervous, but not surprised. That's when the lead investor leaned forward and looked straight at him. Is that everything you found? Not Chad, not me, David. And everything began to shift. It started Friday, 4:47 p.m. I was halfway through a microwave chicken burrito, ready to disappear for the weekend, when Chad dropped a 37-page disaster on my desk. I need this polished for Monday, he said, grinning like a protein shake come to life. Investors, big meeting, you're the detail person, right? He winked. He actually winked. Then walked off whistling, probably to meet his reflection in the gym mirror. The slides were a mess, stock photos, ancient market data, and bullet points that said things like insert vision here. I sighed. That's when I heard a nervous shuffle beside my cubicle. I can stay and help if you want. It was David. The intern, babe-faced, too polite, probably still had a dorm key on his lanyard. Grab a chair, I said. We worked until 2 a.m. I rebuilt the entire deck from scratch. David chased down real-time data, cross-checked projections, and even flagged a growth estimate that was off by 27%. He worked fast, careful, focused, and tired. By midnight, he was muttering metrics like bedtime prayers, but he didn't quit. When we finally saved version 14.3 final JMDK, I leaned back and said, "Honestly, this is good." David nodded. "I didn't expect to learn this much in one night." "Same," I said. We laughed, and that was the last peaceful moment we had. Monday morning hit like a truck full of unpaid overtime. I came in early, even ironed a blouse. Chad waltzed in 10 minutes late with an iced coffee and not a single glance my way. He tossed the deck on the table. "Perfect. Great work," he said. "I'll take it from here." Didn't even open the email. If I'd attached the lyrics to Baby Got Back, he'd have read it out loud without blinking. He told me and David to listen while he runs it once, like we were stagehands at his one-man Broadway show. When he read my slide line again, "We're not just moving the needle." I wanted to crawl into the whiteboard. But I stayed quiet. David looked at me, pale, worried, like a kid who just watched Santa crash a sleigh. I smiled barely. "Just another Monday," I whispered. He tried to believe me. The boardroom felt like a fridge full of expensive regrets. Leather chairs, polished wood, too much cologne. Chad stood at the front like a motivational speaker who never got booked. David sat in the back corner. I stood behind the seats. No name card, no chair, just me and the invisible support staff ghosts. And then Mr. Hathaway walked in. Quiet, calm, measured, he wasn't flashy, no Rolex, no loud voice, just a presence. The kind that makes air molecules nervous. He nodded at no one, until he saw David. That's when it happened, just a flicker. A second longer look, and I remembered. Hathaway. David's last name was Hathaway. Oh damn, and Chad, oblivious. "This is David," he said, slapping David on the shoulder like he was a car he just leased. "New intern, observing today." Hathaway nodded, but his eyes flicked to me. Not confused, not kind. Just a quick scan like he was checking a file he already knew existed. Chad began the presentation, slide after slide. My words, my charts, my strategy, and the investors, stone silent, but Hathaway kept watching David. David, who sat still and calm, jaw-twitching every time Chad butchered one of our carefully crafted points. It wasn't nerves, it was control. David knew something, and so did Hathaway. But Chad, he thought he was crushing it. Every time he said, "our team," my molars ground down another half-inch. By slide 23, the knot in my stomach stopped being rage. It became curiosity. What was David waiting for? Why was Hathaway ignoring the deck? And then it happened. Chad finished the deck. Silence. No applause, no questions, just dead, cold air. "So, any questions?" Chad asked, smile wobbling. And Hathaway leaned back, looked straight at David. "Is that everything you found?" If you've ever had your work stolen and watched someone else take credit, drop your city in the comments. I want to know where the silent heroes are from. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We've got more of these revenge tales on the way. The second Hathaway asked David if that was everything, the air in the boardroom shifted. I didn't breathe. David blinked, looked at me just for a second, not asking for permission, just checking was I with him. I didn't nod, didn't smile, but I held his gaze. He turned back to the table and said calmly, "No, sir. I think some parts were cut from the final deck." Chad jerked his head like someone had tugged a marionette string. "Excuse me." David didn't flinch. "We'd included sections on risk mitigation for product rollout and user feedback from the beta test. They were removed." Hathaway didn't blink. "Removed by whom?" "I made the call," Chad interrupted. "We didn't want to overwhelm the presentation." Hathaway raised an eyebrow. "And who suggested including those sections in the first place?" David said it clearly, without hesitation. "Julie did." Silence. My name hit the table like a dropped wrench. The first time anyone said it all day. The investors all turned to me at once, like they just realized I was part of the furniture with a soul. Hathaway's gaze found mine. Calm, even. "Julie, you didn't think that data was worth cutting?" I could have smiled. Shrugged. "Played diplomatic, but not today. I thought cutting it created a blind spot," I said. "But I wasn't invited to this meeting, so I didn't get a say." That was the crack in the ice. And David, he brought the hammer. He pulled out his tablet, tapped twice, and rotated the screen toward the investors. "This section was intended to follow slide 14, he explained, steady as a surgeon. "It covers churn triggers we found in the beta. Notably, users in our mid-tier plan who skipped onboarding tutorials were 27% more likely to abandon the platform in under 90 days. I watched heads tilt. Pens start scribbling. One investor flipped pages trying to match where this data should have gone. Another leaned in closer. David tapped again. "We also ran a mock A/B test. Minor UI changes, like moving the help icon and increasing tooltip frequency, projected a 17% improvement in retention." Slide. One bold line arcing upward. Simple, clean. My slide, Chad let out a weak laugh. "We were refining the message for clarity." David didn't let him finish. "Julie pushed to include that data. It was cut on your direction." Another pin-drop silence. Then came the question that ended him. A quiet investor, sharp blazer, sharper tone. "Who created this section?" Chad opened his mouth. "It was a team effort. Julie led it," David said, slicing the air with the truth. "She built the framework. I helped pull the data." He didn't look at me for validation. He didn't need to. This wasn't loyalty. It was honesty. And somehow that made it feel even more powerful. Hathaway turned to me again. "You didn't present it because—" "It wasn't on the calendar invite," I said, deadpan, honest. No dressing. That line dropped like a gavel. I didn't smirk. I didn't need to. The investors all sat still, processing the scene. David's tablet now sat glowing in the center of the table. His screen, my slides, our truth, and Chad, he started fidgeting, fingers on his watch, breath hitching. "We collaborated," he insisted. "It evolved," David ended it. "I removed it on your direction." That's when the room turned. Not loud, not messy, just cold realization settling across the faces of 6 very powerful people. No one looked at Chad. They were too busy watching me. Then Hathaway stood. No words at first, just the scrape of his chair against tile. "This wasn't just a pitch," he said. "It was a test." I felt the weight of that land across the table like thunder. David sat up straighter. Chad froze. Then Hathaway did the unthinkable. He placed a hand on David's shoulder. "My son has been interning here incognito this quarter," he said. "Under HR's radar, with my blessing." Chad blinked, laughed. A fake, empty sound. "Wait, that's great. Good for him, right?" No one laughed, not a soul. "We've been evaluating more than your growth slides," Hathaway said, voice smooth as ice. "We've been evaluating culture, integrity, leadership." Chad's face paled. "If I'd known, That's the point, Hathaway snapped. You were supposed to lead, not manipulate. He looked at me. Julie, he said, can we talk privately after this? My throat tightened, but I nodded, once, just once. The moment the meeting adjourned, no one clapped. No one even stood at first. It was like the oxygen had changed. Chad, the once-proud king of the clicker, sat slumped in his chair like someone just unplugged his spine. The investors quietly collected their binders, flipping past his name like it didn't exist. One of them patted David on the back. Another nodded in my direction without saying a word. I didn't move. I wanted to, but I was still processing what just happened. After all these years of staying late, fixing other people's mistakes, being erased in every meeting where I did the heavy lifting, someone saw. Someone finally saw. David passed me first, gave me the smallest nod, not smug, not emotional, just a shared understanding. He didn't need to say thank you. And I didn't need to say good job. We both knew. Then Hathaway stood. Straightened his jacket like he was brushing off dust that didn't dare land on him. Shall we? He said. We walked out together, each step echoing in the hallway like punctuation. Behind us, Chad stumbled to his feet like he still had a chance. Mr. Hathaway, wait, he started, his voice cracking with desperation. Let's not rush this. I think there's a misunderstanding. But before he could get close, two quiet figures stepped from the elevator alcove. Security, not aggressive, not loud, just present. Chad froze mid-step. His laugh was hollow. Oh, come on, this is unnecessary, right? Hathaway didn't turn. Neither did I, we just kept walking. The private conference room was quiet. No giant table, no filtered air, just a space for truth. Hathaway didn't sit. Neither did I, we're increasing our investment, he said. But we're also making leadership changes. I nodded, trying to keep my hands from trembling. You, he continued, are being promoted to head of product strategy, effective immediately. You'll have full authority over roadmap, budget, and your team. My heart skipped. What about Chad? I asked. Hathaway's mouth twitched, a smirk. A warning. HR is reviewing multiple ethical violations. His name won't be on anything going forward, not even the parking space. He turned toward the window, like he was already on to the next decision. I'll have legal send over the formalities, he added. Expect paperwork by end of day. I didn't speak, just nodded, and shook his hand. His grip was firm, steady. Then he left. I walked back through the glass halls where people pretended not to stare. Past the break room where Chad used to hold court like a khaki-clad king. Past the motivational poster that said innovation is collaboration. And there, leaning against the front desk, was David. Half-empty coffee cup in hand. He raised it toward me, not like a salute, more like a stamp. Confirmation. I didn't raise mine back. Didn't need to, we understood. I walked out. No smirk, no strut. Just the steady sound of heels on tile and the hush that comes when the truth is louder than the lies. Chad didn't get walked out in handcuffs. But his career, it walked itself out behind me. Burned not by rage, but by the facts. Clean. Surgical, quiet, exactly the way he never saw coming. The day after the meeting, I came in early, out of habit mostly, partly to see what damage lingered. I didn't expect the stares, not glares, not smiles either, just acknowledgement. People I'd worked with for years, quiet, hardworking, stay-out-of-the-way types, were suddenly making eye contact. Some nodded. A few gave me those small, corporate grins, the kind that mean I saw what you did. Someone had printed an extra copy of the real deck and left it on the break room counter. The one with my slides, David's data. My name marked on the outline page. It was open to the page with the upward trending retention chart. The one Chad had buried, poetic, by 10 mm word had spread. Chad's name was off the org chart. Literally. I checked the company intranet out of curiosity. Head of Product Strategy now had my face on it. Underneath, a simple line. Contact for roadmap inquiries, Julie D. That was it. No fluff. No welcome blurb, just presence. And his profile, gone. Search Chad Carlson and you get an error message, like he never existed. HR called a team meeting that afternoon. No one knew why until we walked into the smaller conference room and found Chad's empty desk stacked with sealed boxes. No speech. No email. Just a printed HR memo taped to the monitor. Pending ethics review, this workstation is offline. Questions may be directed to Julie D. I stared at it longer than I should have. 12 years of working in silence, of watching bad managers walk away with good people's work. And finally, someone put a lock on the door before the damage could spread. In the following days, the interns began gravitating toward my office. David didn't say much. He had to leave after the project was over, but he left something behind. A note, folded once, tucked between a printout and my mousepad. It said, "Truth always speaks. Thanks for letting it. DH, nothing else." I kept it, slipped it in the back of my notebook, between meeting notes and old performance review summaries. The kind where they told me to work on visibility. Visibility. Funny how that works. 3 days later, I was pulled into an executive alignment call with Hathaway and 2 other board members. They didn't talk about the past. They talked about vision, structure, my ideas. They asked if I had plans for streamlining onboarding friction. I already had a roadmap. They didn't ask about Chad, not once. He was a ghost now. A case study in what happens when ego outruns substance. The next week, I redecorated the old corner office. His office. I left the window open and replaced his treadmill desk with an actual table. One that didn't buzz and beep every time someone moved wrong. I brought in a plant. A small one, not to symbolize growth. I just liked it. And in the drawer, I found his old clicker. The one he used during the investor presentation. I picked it up, weighed it in my palm, then tossed it in the trash. Let him keep his buzzwords. I had the work. A month passed. Things moved fast after that day in the boardroom. Budgets were reallocated, roadmaps rewritten. People who used to avoid me in the hallway now asked for my input in meetings. I didn't get louder. The room just got quiet enough to hear me. One Thursday morning, I got an email marked confidential. It was from HR. Attached, Chad's official exit paperwork. He wasn't fired exactly. He resigned under review, which in corporate terms means don't call us, and we won't call the SEC. But the part that mattered. They wanted a formal statement from me, something for the internal record. I typed 2 sentences. The material omissions were deliberate. The misrepresentation was documented. Then I hit send. No flourish. No commentary. The paper trail was now bulletproof. And so was I later that week. A small team lunch was held to celebrate the new product strategy launch. I didn't want anything fancy, just ordered local tacos and grabbed a few folding chairs. But someone made a surprise slide deck. Not with stats, with screenshots. Photos of old Slack messages between Chad and random teams where he brushed off concerns, rejected feedback, and once wrote, "No need to worry about Julie. She's not client-facing." The last slide just said, "Client-facing AF." I laughed, loud. It was the first time I'd really let go in months. The next day, I walked past the lobby and stopped. A new poster had been framed near the elevator. It said, "Leadership isn't the loudest voice. It's the one that listens while others perform." No name, no logo, but underneath someone had scribbled in pen, "Thanks, Julie." I didn't recognize the handwriting. I didn't need to. 2 weeks later, I received a package at my home. No return address. Inside, a clicker, Chad's clicker, spray-painted gold. Attached was a note in David's handwriting. "For the real presentation." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. I keep it on my shelf now, not as a trophy. As a reminder that the work matters. That truth echoes louder than buzzwords. And that even in a world of credit stealers and ladder climbers, sometimes the intern is the son of the CEO. And sometimes justice doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with a calendar invite, a quiet nod, and a promotion no one saw coming. Thanks for watching. If you've ever had your work stolen or your voice ignored, drop a card in the comments and tell us what city you're from. And remember, in the corporate jungle, the quiet ones are the ones you should watch. Like, subscribe, stay dangerous.